Have you ever stopped in the middle of a heated debate and wondered, could the urge to argue be hiding a deeper insecurity? Welcome, friends, to a journey that challenges the very nature of our conversations. Today, we're diving into a world where every word, every disagreement, and every pause for thought is more than just noise. It's a window into who we are. Inspired by the radical ideas of Friedrich Nietzsche, we're going to explore why arguing might not always be the mark of intelligence it's cracked up to be, and how our inner instincts and passions could be the true guides to living a powerful, authentic life. Imagine this. You're at a family dinner or scrolling through social media, and suddenly, a debate flares up over something as trivial as a movie review or a political opinion. You might ask yourself, why do we feel compelled to argue about every little thing? Nietzsche once suggested that our obsession with debate might actually be a mask, a way to cover up a lack of real strength and conviction. Instead of showing genuine self-assurance, many of us argue to prove a point, to validate our existence, or to silence the internal voice that dares to question our beliefs. In our modern world, where opinions fly faster than facts, debate has become almost a default mode of communication. But does it really progress if our words only serve to reinforce old insecurities? Think back to the last argument you had. Was it about seeking the truth, or was it a way of bolstering your ego in front of others? Let's rewind history for a moment. In ancient times, when our ancestors roamed the wild, life was all about instinct. Decisions were made in split seconds, when danger approached, when it was time to hunt, or even when a fleeting moment of joy presented itself. There was no luxury of endless debate. Survival depended on trusting your gut. Fast forward to today, and our brains are overrun with analysis and endless questions. We scrutinize every decision until the moment passes us by. Nietzsche challenges us. What if we return to that raw, instinctual state, where decisions were made with a fierce trust in one's inner voice, without needing to justify every thought? Consider the simple thrill of falling in love. Often, you just know, deep down, without needing to analyze every little detail. That intuitive feeling, that spark of raw truth, is what makes life vibrant. Yet, when we overthink, that spark can dim under the weight of too many questions. Have you ever found yourself caught in a loop of what-ifs that leads nowhere? Picture an entrepreneur with a brilliant idea. Instead of acting on that impulse, they spend hours crunching numbers and analyzing every potential outcome. Meanwhile, the opportunity slips away. Overthinking, as Nietzsche would argue, can be the very enemy of action. It's as if we're trapped in a labyrinth of our own making. Every turn a justification, every pause a silent admission that perhaps we aren't brave enough to act. And what happens when we let fear and doubt govern our choices? Our most instinctive, life-changing moments are sacrificed at the altar of rationality. Let's dig a little deeper. Why do some people seem to thrive on arguing, turning every discussion into a battle of wits? Nietzsche believed that constant arguing often signals a hidden void, a desperate need for validation that stems from inner weakness. Instead of genuinely engaging with ideas, some argue merely to feel important, to stand out in a world that constantly judges and compares. Think of social media, where endless debates echo off digital walls, yet rarely lead to meaningful change. It's a place where shouting over one another becomes the norm, and where the loudest voice often drowns out any attempt at real understanding. Here, the goal isn't to discover truth, but to assert dominance, to win approval from a faceless crowd. But what if we flip the script? What if, instead of entering the arena of argument, we took a step back and listened, not just to others, but to the quiet wisdom of our own hearts? Imagine a world where debates are not battles to be won, but opportunities for genuine connection and self-discovery. At the heart of Nietzsche's philosophy is the idea of the Übermensch, or overman, a person who transcends conventional morality and lives by their own authentic values. The Übermensch doesn't waste energy on proving themselves through endless debate. Instead, they channel their energy into creating, living, and embodying the truth they hold within. Picture a lone tree standing tall in an open field. It doesn't compete for shade or try to outgrow its neighbors. Its strength comes from deep roots and a quiet confidence, a trust in its own nature that requires no external validation. That, Nietzsche would say, is the essence of true power. It isn't about loud proclamations or winning arguments. It's about knowing who you are and living that truth unapologetically. This concept challenges us to rethink our own lives. Are we so caught up in proving ourselves to the world that we forget to live for ourselves? How often do we let the need to be right eclipse the joy of simply being? Let me share a story. A few years ago, I found myself embroiled in a disagreement with a close friend. What began as a simple conversation quickly escalated into a full-blown argument. I was determined to win, to convince them of my perspective. But as the debate wore on, I noticed something unsettling. I was no longer listening. I was so intent on defending my point that I had stopped caring about what they truly felt. That moment became a turning point. I realized that by clinging to my need to be right, I was missing out on something far more valuable: the opportunity to understand, to connect, and to grow. I began to ask myself instead, what if my strength isn't measured by how loudly I can argue, but by how deeply I can understand? That shift in perspective transformed not just that friendship, but my entire approach to life. It's a lesson that resonates deeply with Nietzsche's critique of modern debate. Instead of letting our discussions become arenas for ego and insecurity, we can choose to see them as mirrors, reflections that reveal our inner state, our fears, and our untapped potential. So, how do we transform our tendency to argue into something more constructive? Here are a few thoughts that might help. 1. Pause and reflect. When you feel the urge to jump into an argument, take a moment. Ask yourself, what do I really hope to achieve here? Sometimes, the best response is a pause, a moment of silence that allows you to gather your thoughts and reconnect with your inner voice. Listen actively. True conversation isn't about waiting for your turn to speak. It's about truly listening to the other person's perspective. By embracing curiosity instead of defensiveness, you open the door to understanding and empathy. Embrace uncertainty. It's okay not to have all the answers. Embrace the uncertainty of life as a space for growth. Remember, not every question needs a concrete answer, and not every disagreement is a battle that must be fought. Value authenticity over approval. Focus on living authentically. When you trust your own instincts and values, the need for external validation diminishes. Let your actions speak louder than words, and be willing to stand by your truth, even if it means standing alone. Transform conflict into opportunity. Every disagreement, every moment of tension, is a chance to learn something new about yourself and others. Approach conflicts as opportunities for growth, rather than obstacles to be overcome with force. Today, our world is saturated with information and opinions. Social media platforms turn every discussion into a spectacle, where the aim is often to be heard rather than to understand. In this digital age, debates are not confined to quiet cafes or intimate living rooms. They play out on screens, amplified and distorted by algorithms that reward noise over nuance. This environment can make it incredibly difficult to find clarity. The sheer volume of opinions can drown out the subtle truths that lie beneath. Nietzsche's wisdom reminds us that in a world obsessed with debate, true strength lies in our ability to cut through the noise and connect with our inner selves. Imagine scrolling through your feed, and instead of getting pulled into every argument, you choose to step back and reflect. What if you could filter out the clamor and focus on what truly matters? Your own journey, your own growth. This isn't about disengaging from the world. It's about engaging with it more mindfully, with an awareness that every moment is an opportunity to learn and evolve. Let's paint a picture of what a life lived beyond the need to argue might look like. Picture waking up each day with a quiet confidence, a sense that your worth isn't tied to external validation or the fleeting approval of others. Your decisions, whether big or small, flow naturally from an inner well of strength and authenticity. You engage with the world not as a battleground for ego, but as a canvas upon which you create meaning. In this vision, debates and disagreements still happen. They are inevitable when different lives intersect, but they are approached with a spirit of collaboration rather than competition. Instead of seeing conflict as a threat, you see it as a chance to refine your ideas, to understand another perspective, and to grow in unexpected ways. This is the kind of life Nietzsche challenges us to live. A life where you're not shackled by the need to justify every moment, where your actions are guided by a deep-seated intuition and a clear sense of purpose. It's a life where every challenge is an invitation to become a better, more authentic version of yourself. As we draw this conversation to a close, I want you to take a moment and reflect. When was the last time you stopped to listen, to really listen, not just to others, but to your own inner voice. What might change if you chose understanding over argument, authenticity over approval? Nietzsche's philosophy invites us to ask these difficult questions. It challenges us to break free from the confines of constant debate and to embrace a life defined by inner clarity and genuine strength. Instead of letting our discussions spiral into endless loops of defense and justification, we can learn to see them as stepping stones on our path to self-overcoming. So, I leave you with this final question. What will you choose? An endless cycle of argument, or the liberating journey of discovering your true self? Take a moment to think about the last time you acted on pure instinct, without the need for elaborate justification. That was a moment of genuine strength. Let that feeling guide you as you move forward. Embrace the idea that real power isn't found in winning debates, but in mastering the art of living, listening to your inner voice, trusting your instincts, and daring to live authentically in a world that often values noise over substance. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of ideas. Remember, your life is not a debate to be won. It's a story to be lived. Let your actions be the words that write your narrative, and may you find the courage to always follow the truth within your heart. Until next time, keep questioning, keep growing, and most importantly, keep living with purpose.